Tariguei achitumano, chica manica del chichiriguel, tingling sharei. Tariguei achitumano, chica manica del chichiriguel, tingling sharei. My name is Gloria Flores, and we're at the studios at Fischer, and I'm celebrating my sister Corina, so I came to do a sing-along with my sister Corina. And so that's why I'm here at the studios with Stephanie Rey, enjoying her company and the conversation.
Crucificado en un madero, manso cordero mueres por mí. Por ese el alma triste y llorosa, suspira ansiosa, Señor, por ti.
Great job. I know I broke down a little bit on maybe it was the fourth part. I did some recordings that will celebrate my sister that just passed in this last February. She was a servant of the Lord, and all her life she worked for the Lord. And I want to extend this and celebrate her life.
Me aborrecieron por causa de su nombre, cuando supieron que a Cristo me entregué.
I want to be reading from what I put down because I shared this with everybody at her funeral. And her name's Corina Lopez. And she passed this February the 21st, this year, 2021. And the funeral was on March the 2nd of 2021. And so I guess I'll start right now with sharing Corina Santana Lopez, who I always called Corine. So in my letter, it'll be Corine. I'm sharing with you today, what I'm sharing with you today is as I remember Corine telling me. And it's a span of about 40 years of her life. 40 years that she lived in New Mexico, and then she came to live with us her last 12 years. And my name is Gloria, and I'm the oldest of 11 children to Felix and Felicita Santana, Feliz and Lita. Corine was the fifth child. There are so many stories about my sister Corine. And today, I want to share one of them. She was a true servant of God. When the church that we grew up in closed its doors, Corine started visiting the church that our Tia Lucia attended. They had recently bought a new building. Soon after they bought it, the pastor and some of the members left the church. He left the church with a few members, and Tia Lucia became the pastor, and Corine became her right hand. Together, these brave warriors organized a kitchen in the church building. They would make tamales on one Friday and enchilada plates on the next Friday, and so on. They had state inspections for business, 2 special plates that they made. Corine was a teacher at the time, so she would take orders from the other teachers and deliver them. And the community helped by keeping them in business. These servants of God served for years until the building was paid. Approximately maybe 20 years or so. And they did it on their own, just these 2 brave women. And they had about 10 members the most. God called a man from Del City, Texas, to preach in Loving. And he said, I don't know where Loving is at. And he told us that it was during the night. The Lord woke him up and said, you're going to go preach in Loving, New Mexico. And he said, I don't know, but the Lord knows everything. His name, God knows everything. He came to preach for 17 years. His name is Espirion Muniz. Tia Lucia passed at 93 in January the 15th, 2018. Pastor Muniz officiated at her funeral. And her son Daniel, Corinne's son Daniel, just told me that Dora Mendez passed 5 days before Corine. These women that I called brave warriors are finally resting together. Corine remembered things from way back, but her present memory was lost. Glory, she said one day, I fell in love with Jesus when I was 5 or 6 years old. It was a time when Mom was teaching us about Jesus. I felt the love, that overwhelming love for Jesus. And one verse that my mom had us memorize is John 3:16. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And in Spanish, porque de tal manera amó Dios al mundo, que dio a su Hijo unigénito, para que todo aquel que en él crea no se pierda, mas tenga vida eterna. I'm celebrating my sister Corina. She spent her whole life working for this day. She loved the Lord. That's why she never tired of serving the Lord. And that's why I can say, vaya con Dios, mi sister. Our heritage is, on one side is Spaniards, and on my dad's side, he had the blue eyes. But on the other side, it's Apaches. And so my dad on the Spaniards and my mom on, we have a mixture in the family. A lot are light skin and half dark skin. And my daddy had curly hair. So I'm one of the ones that has, 5 of us have curly hair. And the other ones have straight hair, the ones that took that from my mom. And so we always knew growing up that we had Indian, Apache roots. And when my mom passed, one of my aunts that was the oldest at the time, she came to spend a couple of weeks with me. And in those weeks, she taught me one of the songs. And since you're interested in me sharing it with you, I'll share it with you today. That she sang to me, and I learned the words, and I wrote it down somewhere. It's at home. And but I memorized it so that I could sing it to you and you can learn it. That was my mom's grandma was half, and so it was her mom that was full-blooded. Her husband, he was a captive by the Indians, and he was Mexican. And he married a full-blooded Indian, but he was one that grew up with the Apaches, and they had taken him captive from Fort Davis. And so he grew up and married the Indian princess. And he said, when the roundup came that they were rounding up all the Indians, I guess he didn't look too much Indian because he was probably light-skinned, blue eyes or something. And so they left him behind and left her with him. And they went into Mexico for a long time, and they stayed there. But he made a song for her. And it was, ¿Qué haremos, indita ahora? Y a la ronda nos halló. Tú irás a la recogida, pero yo a la cárcel no. He made that song because the roundup had come, and he knew that she was going to be taken away from him, and that he was not going to he did not want to end up in jail, and he made that song. But life had it that he was never captured, and he lived to be 100 and some years in New Mexico, and he is buried, and they have a native cemetery there in Loving, New Mexico, and he's buried there, and he lived to be, I believe it's 121 years. One of my brothers has told us a lot of stories that Grandpa would tell him, and he's written them down, and we kind of have some of them in the Onsures reunion. They had people from the historic place, and they interviewed my brother, and he told a lot of these stories that are saved. These are songs that my sister Corina sang at church all the time. And some of them I sang with her at funerals, just at funerals and things. And today I'm still celebrating her. Her because of all the work she did for the Lord, and because even after she was in Midland, she would sing at the church. And when she started getting real sick, one of the church ladies said, we better record her before she can't sing anymore. And that's how she ended up being recorded. The pastor helped her record her, and the whole church, helped with the recording and everything. And so that's how this was found. That's how her CD came to play. The one that talks about not having anything, that it didn't matter to her. If she didn't have anything, if she lived under a tree or whatever, as long as she had God in her heart. That one, that was very touching to me. And the other one was knowing that I was in when Jesus was at the cross, I was in his mind. That touched me. The experience here was wonderful. I was a little bit nervous, but you helped me along, because you kept telling me that, you liked so it helped me along so that I could record all 10 of them that my sister had recorded before. And one of them, the last one, Aire, I was in that one before, but it didn't really stand out until, today. But I was in that one. We were both like together singing from one. Well, I was more nervous about when you told me that it was going to be here in a studio. That was really, because I thought it was going to be with just a little recorder and hearing the music, the radio or something, put it on something and you hear it. And that was intimidating, really. But thank you, Lord.
Transformado en aquel feliz momento, cuando mi Cristo al cielo me llamó.
She was always helping me. And there wasn't a day that we didn't have to go run an errand or so. And she was always with me. And then we'd come home and she'd be in there trying to help me do something. And it went fast. And she came over, and what I'm so much grateful for is that she had never really gone on vacations at all in her life. And we were able to take her to Hawaii, and then we were able to take her to Florida, and all the little vacations around, like Santa Fe and Tucson and all the quinceañeras and weddings that happened in the family. We never left her behind. We had her with us, and Ernesto, my brother that I took care of for 21 years too. And Corina, we took care of her since 2009. And so I feel like they were my children, and I was just taking care of my children. So the oldest of 11, and my mom passing at 57, it left me with a lot of children to take care of. I think that our family is pretty much on the right track by being family, loving family. We both Tomas and I have instilled family love. That's more important than anything. And I remember my parents, when we were very poor, but they always said that. And at the time, when you're little, you don't try to figure it out. They would always say, I would hear my grandpa and my dad saying that money was no good. I mean, it was good, but that family was more important, more valuable. That's what the word that family was more valuable than the money, because they would always say, if you have all the money in the world and you get sick and don't have friends, what good does it do? And so they instilled family love, get-togethers, and just enjoy each other. That's all there is. And so, and when you do that, when you help, you're getting closer to God, because that is from God. compassion and love is from God. He, just like the verse said, for God so loved the world, he gave up his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall have everlasting life. That's what we all try to teach our children, our grandkids. But that's more important. What's after this is more important than what's here. Praise the Lord.
Recoge tu rebaño, porque la noche ya se empieza a acercar y las ovejas están desorientadas y los pastores no las pueden juntar.
One more. Here, we'll just put you así.
Thank you, Juan Tomás. Gloria es el esposo de Gloria. Y estoy contento lo que ella decía de su hermana. Me recordaba algo muy tiempos que yo también me gocé mucho, porque cuando ella trabajaba, pues yo les hacía comida, yo les era el cocinero, y Corina y Neto siempre estaban listos, se sentaban y por los dos estaban malditos de su mente y se sentaban y yo me ponía a cocinar y ellos estaban bien contentos hasta que les decía yo, ahora sí, ya vénganse, aquí está su plato, aquí está ya la comida. Y se levantaban, ok, Netito, véngase. Iban bien contentos a comer. So, most of the time me hacían que me salieran lágrimas porque tenían una compasión y me daba mucho gusto. Sentía en mi corazón poder servirles a unas criaturas como eran ellos. Esa es una satisfacción que yo tengo también y hemos sido tan bendecidos, mi esposo y yo hemos sido bendecidos porque siempre, muchas veces hemos tenido tanto de la familia de ella como familia mía en la casa y pues nos gozamos.
¿Para qué quiero la vida si me faltas tú?
Pues fue una experiencia y un surprise, todo porque yo no sabía nada de esto. Gloria decía que venían a visitar pero dice que me había mencionado, pero en realidad guess que no puso mucha atención y yo creía que iba a platicar algo del CD de Corina o grabarlo en un teléfono o algo así. Nunca pensaba que venían a un estudio como estaba aquí. So, gracias a ti, mija, que estamos aquí. No tengo palabras para describir el gozo que he sentido, la emoción de poder estar en un lugar así. Gracias a ti, gracias a Dios primeramente, gracias a ti, que te siga Dios bendiciendo en todo tiempo.
Menos tú. Good job.
En otro lado.
Thank you, thank you, thank you,
Hold on, we're doing one more.
thank you.
We love you guys so much.
We love you, love.